we literally just launched a couple of weeks ago Africa's first AI travel assistant. And what makes me more excited about our AI is that it speaks pidgin.
Hello? Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Soumya Kimishere, COO, co-founder in MaliPay. MaliPay is an embedded finance platform that embeds financial services into ecosystems, organizations through our one super API. And our business currently is across 5 countries: Nigeria, Kenya, South Africa, Rwanda. We're launching Zimbabwe. And AI. Well, for us, financial inclusion is one of the major things we want to tackle. And if you agree with me, a larger part of the population are excluded. And that's because for someone like myself, I can have access to financial services just because I earn a salary, and there's accurate records about my transactions at my bank or banks. Now, how would you do that for SMEs, individuals, informal sector workers who are outside of that catchment group? So what we do is we use AI to provide an entry point. Well, not AI, we get them in at an entry point. We use machine learning to, of course, improve the metrics on them, and then AI uses alternative data like social media and basic trends that we can get on them to make a summation on whether they're lendable or not, or whether it's time to continue to open up the roof to them to get more and more and more. So that's how we're using it.
And thanks for the encouragement. So besides your own business models, I want to maybe look, you're all entrepreneurs at heart. You probably see problems the second you wake up to the minute you go to sleep in the morning. So living in this very complicated Lagos that we all live in, what are some problems that you think AI can really unlock, and business models that you would like to see that maybe you haven't even seen yet? Whoever wants to take it.
Okay, yeah, so look, Africa, very vibrant continent, lots of opportunities, but equally lots of challenges here. Obviously, we're behind when it comes to finance, health, education, agriculture. Well, I won't speak about how it connects to me on a day-to-day basis, but essentially you'd see how, well, we are trying to solve the problem of access to finance, but there are also issues with access to health services, right? Access to, efficient distribution of food, education. I don't even want to start, right? If you look at the continent of Africa, there are a lot of opportunities we can solve with AI. And that is already happening, and it's quite encouraging when you see, companies that are currently offering diagnostic services of chatbots that essentially are powered by AI. You're looking at companies that are essentially supporting farmers by being able to diagnose some of the issues that they are facing on their farms, or even giving them predicted analysis of what to expect from the weather in terms of inputs that they need to put in. There are a lot of opportunities in Africa. I dare say that we have a lot more challenges or a lot more use for AI here. But having said that, I also understand that AI is relatively new. Not new, well, I tell people not new, but it's a thing. Because I'm sure a couple of the guys here, you all played soccer from like 10, 20 years ago on your PS. And you thought you were playing a machine, but you were actually playing AI, right? So it's just being packaged better. So I'd say lots of opportunities in Africa.
Yeah. So maybe, Boogie, before I allow you the floor here, I want to just maybe one more follow-up question. A lot of the models that you mentioned are decision-making AI models, right? Like taking data sets, translating them into smarter decision-making processes. But I think the AI that's gotten a lot of hype lately is generative AI. So maybe, Boogie, also onto you, like, do you see opportunities there as well? But continue with my previous question.
Generative AI space that we're in. So I've talked about travel. I'll park that for right now. I think one of an innovation that I would love. So everybody has things delivered to their houses, right? And one of the greatest experiences is when a delivery driver calls you to ask you, where's your house? Even though you gave the entire description, you even painstakingly spent time explaining that your house is next to the red flower, which is tall if you just look up, and still they will call you and say, where are you? I think generative AI can be really powerful here in helping to communicate with delivery drivers or logistics companies in tonations that they understand. And that's why I think what we've done at Travel Stuff is really exciting, because for your AI to be speaking pidgin, we're not assuming that everybody speaks English, right? And so for you to start using AI in that manner, okay, what language would you like? I mean, let's not talk about the number of languages that we have in Nigeria.
200 or something, right?
Exactly, right? And we only spend time talking about what, 5 English, Pidgin, Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa. But for your generative AI to be able to communicate with anyone, you have now increased the pool of employability, right? Because now each person can switch their generative AI to a language that they understand. And one of the cool things that we tested before we went live with our travel assistant was, we tried different tonations like Barbie. Like some people wanted Barbie to be their AI, some people wanted James Bond to be their AI, and then we rightfully settled on Pigeon being the travel assistant that we would release.
So it's Burna Boy.
Exactly. That was my selection, but apparently I didn't make it. And then that gets into the regulation about AI, but I don't know if we're going to do that.
Lastly.
I think AI Africa, especially for upcoming businesses, they need to begin to see how to use AI to effectively analyze their local data, your business information, to see what is working on time, what is not working, what do you need to adjust, what do you put your energy on. A lot of businesses just run the cost and they just goes wrong without seeing the signal. So it's high time, even though in Africa we have a lot of data we're not fully represented, companies can personally aggregate their own data for their own little AI and make it effective for their company. One, to quickly see things that are not working. Second, to interact with our customer in a very effective way. You can create a chatbot dedicated to your company that knows everything about your company and give right feedback to your customer. Reduce a lot of costs and get a lot of efficiency within the system. I think even in operation, reminding, timing, planning, executions, putting you on your toes, there's a lot that AI can do. Even though we say yes, if you're looking at it globally, we say we're not directly represented. But it's something I usually do when I want to get local. If you tell it's generative AI, why are we talking about generative AI? Because it's a language model. And why is it popular? Because that's the only way you express knowledge. You don't speak to anybody, it's either you're typing or you're speaking. So if it means that all this knowledge that is in those database can be represented in the way you speak. So definitely everybody will be affected by AI, whether you like it or not. Because there's none of the knowledge in our field that is not represented in databases. So what I'm saying that we need to begin to do as a company is to begin to analyze those data. Even though it's not fully represented, it's something I used to do. I would tell, I say, ChatGPT, I'll type, I want you to give me a research about Nigeria or about new startup or new venture, but I want you to use only data within Nigeria. You will tell me, go ahead, I'm ready to do that. And it's going to give you information based on your location. And if you try it generally, you will give you a general perception, general overview. But if you narrow it down to your location, it will give you, let me give you an example. When you get to you try it, then design a real estate business for me, and I can become a unicorn in 6 months. Don't localize it. Then go again and say, do it for me, but I want you to use African data. The terminology will be different, the description will be different. You will make it the way you want. So one thing I've realized is that regardless, we can begin to filter those things through AI. That's why you see a lot of
that's an interesting sidebar. I think especially given the audience here is a lot of entrepreneurs themselves. I'd love to hear from you guys, maybe some hacks that you guys have used internally on making your business more efficient or smarter, or whether it's, especially if it's leveraging off of third-party tools, but maybe it's also building something internally. Is there anything that you've used with success?
So for us, we've used our data. With that, I basically asked what I would call the general learning of AI to make our data smarter, right? So as a travel company that has been in existence in Nigeria since 2012, we have a lot of data. We've hired a lot of passengers, and so when we're trying to find out like what are the types of questions that customers are always asking us about, I think the number one is payment confirmation, right? Which is why we have so many fintechs. Regardless of how many fintechs we have, we still haven't cracked payment confirmation and money leaving one place and arriving at the time that you expected. So
heaven forbid they want a refund on that money.
Oh my God, heaven forbid. So what we have done, I guess, to make it more smarter for us on the inside is to say, okay, how can we help our operations agents respond to some of these general queries faster? How can AI look up sort of a proof of payment or answer a general query much quicker than like an agent, thereby allowing that agent to work on more complex queries that require detailed looking versus, sort of general things that, a general question, they could go and read it from an FAQ, but customers don't like to read frequently asked questions. I feel like we all just put it on there so that our SEO is very high, but with AI and the way that they're interacting with our bot, we're finding that they're asking the same questions that we've already answered.
Anything you want to add? No, okay. We actually also use it internally, both for our own sales function with how to respond much more efficiently to LPs, but also pipeline companies as well, and are starting to become a lot smarter internally on the investment side on how we leverage it as well. So Buki, you said something super interesting before around kind of taking these personas, and even if there is a low literacy, a high language barrier, being able to actually potentially expand employment for this population. So my original question was, in Africa we have low access, affordability is a challenge, connectivity is a challenge, digital literacy is a challenge. But I guess my question to all of you is, for AI, is this a challenge or is it an opportunity?
So I'll address it first. I think it's an opportunity. Especially if we as African innovators and entrepreneurs can figure out how to serve up AI in a manner that the African consumer can use. So what do I mean? So for example, in the US, they like desktops, right? In Nigeria, we are more mobile first for everything. And then when you look at mobile, it's more sort of, I don't know, I think when I visit the West, everyone would be like, oh, people love Apple in it. I'd be like, Apple? No, we are like, Infinix. They're like, what's that? I'm like, you see, that was Lenny. And so what I would really be excited to see is how do we use phones that maybe are not necessarily popular in other markets, and how do we get them to use AI? And then for me, a texting function, right? Because what is a USSD? It's basically a texting function, but how can you pair that with AI and therefore make it more accessible to more people, because that is the medium that they are used to communicating. I think that's where the innovation is really for us here within Africa, is looking at the models of how to mass market interact, and how do we bring AI to them, not them to AI.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I'd like to speak from the angle of developing these solutions. There's definitely a role for the government here. I'm sure sitting in this crowd are a couple of people who want to do something around AI, but you need the resources to do that. Now, a lot of the things that we're using, resources, open source solutions and technologies that we're reliant on this continent are coming from outside the continent, right? And the data that we're sitting or using are are essentially sitting outside of the continent and not necessarily designed for our way of life. Now, I'd say, innovators need a lot of support, a lot of training, a lot of, they need a lot of resourcing, because look, creativity is not a problem on the continent, right? But what they need is the help right? They need the resources. They need to be able to say, I've got a grant, I want to work on this solution, I've got a grant, I don't have to think of how I survive, how I live, how I put fuel in my generator and all those things. That's covered by my grant. All I need to do is get creative and build for Africa. Right now, when we do that, we will have innovators who understand this continent, building for this continent, like you said, understanding that the point of contact with most of the customers or the people who need AI on this continent will be mobile, right? So there's definitely a place for government to support, and definitely even corporate organizations should be getting involved with grants and other resources that they can afford these innovators.
Yeah, so it's an interesting conversation as we were just on the other stage talking about what investable business looks like. And everybody's obsessed with near-term profitability, a little cash burn, but the problem with AI is it takes a long time to build out models. So you're not seeing that until the product is probably built. So I completely agree. Can I please open it up for some audience questions? Okay.
Hi. I have two questions. Most important. Okay. I perceive an inverse relationship between AI adoption and employment rates because we should. I mean, I kind of sense that I don't think AI will mean some of the traditional roles that humans occupy will be replaced. So I don't know if you have comments based on that.
I have a lot of comments, and I'll just keep it short. What I would say is, when we think about employability of a human being, we need to think about what tasks are they working on, and how can I free up tasks. So for example, if you are working on 10 things, and I can bring technology and cut that down to 5, right? You have capacity for 10. So what are the other 5 things that I haven't been able to do in my business that I can now start doing today? So I think that when people think about new technologies, the natural human fear is always eradication of jobs. But what there isn't is, if I remove something, what else can I add? And what you have to think about is that employee or human that was doing that, what else can I upskill them to do that I wasn't able to do yesterday, but now I can do today because we have the availability and flexibility. So I'm on the opposite side of the fence. I think that we're going to see huge employability. We're going to see more people being able to be employed, especially delivery drivers, because now we can communicate with them, right? That my AI can talk to them. Anybody that is investing in voice recognition, especially for the African consumer, I think is really going to hit gold there, because that is something that nobody outside of the continent is going to solve for us. We have to solve it ourselves.
I think basically when integrating comes together, there's this fear. Because it's going to empower more people to be able to utilize their time properly, to be able to do more job, to achieve more things. Because now there's a lot of things you can do with AI. Use your personal cars, working for your company more effectively. Yeah, some lazy people might lose their job. They don't know. They will be trying. Things are changing. You can't ignore someone that is very exposed in terms of AI, in terms of social media, all those things are becoming a permanent need right now. So I think everybody should just work with the trend and adapt with the trend so that you don't get caught up with it.
Thank you so much.
For more on well-researched and balanced stories, events and interviews across business, tech innovation and lifestyle, please like, share and subscribe to this channel, www.youtube.com/Digivation Network.